Welcome to Wraith Frequency, where every whisper carries a shadow. Tonight, we tune in to another tale, never meant to be heard, so sit back, turn down the lights, and listen closely, because once the signal starts, you won't be alone anymore. It happened the moment my boots touched the second floor. The flashlight skipped, one sharp pulse of darkness, right as something slid across the far end of the hallway. Not fast, not blur-like, slow, purposeful, like it wanted me to see the movement without seeing what moved. I stood there, breath fogging the cold air, every instinct screaming at me to step back outside. But ego is louder than instinct, and I'd already told my producer this would be simple. With the camera rolling, I forced my legs to move. The hallway seemed longer each time my light flickered, as though the darkness stretched the distance when I blinked. Behind me, the automatic doors creaked shut on their own, sealing me inside. The truth is, I didn't want to be there. Urban exploration wasn't my passion. It was rent money. My role was simple: film eerie places, splice footage, add creepy background music. I wasn't paid to believe rumors. Briarwood Hospital, though, had a reputation even the skeptics whispered about. The fire, the disappearances, the pediatric wing closure, and worst of all, the tapping stories. At a gas station an hour earlier, the cashier stared at me when I mentioned Briarwood. His eyes went wide like I'd just told him I was about to dig up a grave with my bare hands. "Then don't look at anything twice," he said. I asked him what that meant. He only shook his head and walked away. I've filmed at dozens of abandoned places. They're never quiet. There's always something. Birds, settling wood, faraway traffic. But Briarwood's silence was heavy, a thick blanket pressed against my ears. My footsteps didn't echo. Even my breathing seemed swallowed by the air, as if the building wanted to keep every sound for itself. I whispered, "Hello?" The sound didn't carry. It didn't even return to me. Instead, the walls seemed to lean in like they were listening. At one point, my own heartbeat sounded unnaturally loud in my ears. I pressed a hand to my chest, confused. It wasn't fast, just amplified, like something inside the walls was matching its rhythm with mine. It began faintly, a delicate pattering like someone drumming their fingers on a desk. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, tap. It wasn't random. It was rhythmic, intentional. I followed the sound to the nurse's station. My flashlight swept over a rusted metal counter and froze. Fresh dents, 5 of them in a clean row. Finger-shaped imprint marks. But each dent was longer than it should have been, as if someone with unnaturally long fingers had pressed into solid metal with ease. The tapping resumed behind me, closer this time. I spun around. Nothing. Only a wheelchair slowly turning despite the still air. The pediatric wing had its own atmosphere, colder, somehow hollow, like the air had been drained out years ago and never refilled. My flashlight found a child's height chart painted in fading colors. Little cartoon animals, balloons, cheerful things decayed by time. But the chart didn't stop where a child's height would end. 5 feet, 6, 7, 8. Up the wall, across the peeling paint, over the door frame, scraping into the ceiling itself. At the very top was a smiley face, wide, jagged, carved with something sharper than a crayon. Teeth scratched into plaster, dozens of them, forming a grin that was wrong for any human face. And next to it, written in a child's handwriting, "He reached." My flashlight dimmed. I lifted my camera to use the screen's brightness instead. That's when I finally saw it. On the digital display, clear as day, something stood at the end of the hall. A silhouette, impossibly tall, its neck bent sharply like it was trying to peer around a corner. Its arms hung long enough that its fingers nearly touched the floor. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head toward the hall. Nothing. Slowly, I lifted the camera again. The figure was now halfway down the hallway. I lowered it. Nothing there. Raised it again. Closer. My breathing turned shallow. The tapping started again. But this time it came from inside the walls. Something exhaled behind my neck. Warm, slow. Like someone leaning in, breath brushing my skin with soft, humid pressure. I couldn't move. Every muscle locked. I kept my eyes forward, terrified that turning around would make it real, or worse, show it that I was real. The breath dragged out for several seconds. The air shifted around me as if something tall was looming close enough to touch. A low crack sounded behind me, like joints bending the wrong direction. Then the breath stopped. I didn't look. I couldn't. The hospital layout didn't match the blueprints. I knew that immediately. The exit should have been to my left. Instead, the hallway branched into 3 new corridors that weren't there earlier. Doorways shifted as if the building were rearranging itself around me. My flashlight caught shadows moving across the ceiling tiles. Not walking, but crawling, stretching, spreading. The tapping continued, now traveling along the walls like something was following me from the inside. Tap, tap, tap. Closer, faster. I ran, but the halls grew narrower, walls bending inward, tiles groaning like ribs tightening around a lung. Every direction felt wrong, angles that hurt my eyes, turns that led nowhere, dead ends that hadn't existed moments before. And through it all, the tapping grew louder. More hands now, more fingers, like a whole corridor of things following behind me. The lobby appeared suddenly, like I'd stumbled out of a nightmare into a memory. My legs shook as I barreled toward the doors. They were open, waiting. I stepped forward, then stopped. The glass caught my reflection, but it wasn't just me in it. Behind my reflection, towering over my shoulder, was a tall silhouette. Its head hovered inches above me, tilted so sharply it looked broken. Its limbs pressed too close, like it was leaning in to study the curve of my spine, the hair on my neck, the way fear twisted my posture. My reflection exhaled shakily. Its reflection didn't. I didn't turn around. I sprinted. Back home, I wanted to delete everything. But fear and curiosity fight the same war, and curiosity won. Frame by frame, I studied the footage. In the background of nearly every clip, a stretched shadow, a hand around a corner, a head peeking behind a door, a body leaning from the ceiling, never moving, only appearing when the camera wasn't pointed directly at it. Then the last frame. Just before I escaped, the lens fogged from the inside. A fingerprint smeared across it. No. 5 fingerprints, long, thin, impossible. And in the fogged condensation, something had written, "Hello again." I slammed my laptop shut. My heart hammered. My apartment was silent until tap, tap, tap on my bedroom wall. 13 minutes past 2. The next night, I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat on the couch, laptop closed, lights blazing, windows locked, and yet I still heard it, soft scratching like fingernails gliding along plaster. It wasn't coming from the floor, the ceiling, or the walls in any logical way. It seemed to move through the apartment, bending space as it passed. The tapping returned at 2:13 a.m. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps. But this time it was inside the walls, not just on the surface. I pressed my ear against the living room wall. I thought I could hear whispers, soft syllables, unintelligible but deliberate. The sounds were familiar, yet alien, like a child's voice stretched and warped. My stomach dropped as a thought came to me. This wasn't following me. It was growing with me. It learned my rhythms, my habits. My presence was feeding it. I avoided mirrors for days, but curiosity, like terror, has a way of winning. At 2:13 a.m., heart hammering, I uncovered the bathroom mirror. I knew what I would see, or at least feared what I would. For the first 30 seconds, there was nothing. Then, in the corner of the reflection, a tall figure slowly emerged. Its neck tilted impossibly, arms dragging along the floor, fingertips grazing the tiles. Its head jerked toward me in a curious, mocking way, yet its body didn't move in real space. It was somehow both behind the glass and in my apartment. Frozen, I realized it was studying me again, learning me. My own reflection tried to scream, but my mouth remained closed. The figure lingered for only a moment before vanishing as if it had never existed, leaving only the faintest smear of condensation across the glass. A jagged smile, identical to the one on the pediatric wing height chart. And in the silence afterward, I heard it clearly. 3 soft taps. Pause. 3 soft taps, coming from the corner of the room where no one should have been standing. I understood then that leaving Briarwood Hospital didn't matter. Whatever I had glimpsed that night had already come home with. You've been listening to Wraith Frequency. If this tale kept your pulse a little too high, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps the signal travel deeper into the dark. Got a story of your own? Leave it in the comments, and maybe your voice will echo here next time. Until then, stay aware, stay in the light, and keep your ears open, because the next frequency might already be calling you.